대한민국 기상청을 세계 최고의 수준으로 끌어올리겠다. 케니스 크로포드 기상청 기상선진화 추진단장의 말입니다. 외국인 공무원 임용이 허용된 이후 최초로 지난 8월 부임한 크로포드 단장으로부터 그의 구체적인 계획과 과거에 대해서 들어보겠습니다. 일단 단장님 참 뵙고 싶었습니다.
안녕하세요. My pleasure as well.
단장님, 저희 기상청에서 구체적으로 어떤 일을 하시게 됩니까?
My mission is simple but complicated. It's simple in that I'm to be a change agent for the KMA. And a change agent simply means that I will bring a new paradigm, and that's an English word that means new ideas as they relate to other ideas. My goal is to bring new concepts and have them mesh with current concepts and do so seamlessly. So that's one mission. That's a mission that was given to me by several ministers. Now the KMA administrator has asked me for another mission and goal, and he's asked me to look at the aspects from basic research all the way to communicating our most precious products, warnings, to the public and to see a correct response. So everything that's in between, applied research, training, product preparation, dissemination, use by users, I'm to cover that for him.
단장님, 요즘 바쁘시게 지내시는 걸로 알고 있는데요. 하루 스케줄이 어떻습니까, 요즘에요?
I would like to add two comments to the previous answer. I think the focus of the KMA forecasters in 2 to 3 years should be on the 2-hour to 10-hour time frame, or the 3 to 6 and 3 to 9-hour time frame, nowcasting. That's where high impact weather occurs. That's what makes headlines in newspapers. And so the focus is, I hope, will shift to high impact weather events and nowcasting. The second point I would make in the previous answer is I think we should make absolutely certain that the citizens of South Korea know that they get great value for their investment in the KMA. So you now ask, what do I do on a daily basis? Well, I begin the day by going to the Weather Forecast Office map discussions. Sometimes I ask questions, but most times I observe what they do and what they say and what I see on the weather maps. My goal is to learn East Asian weather better than I already know it. My goal is to see opportunities for ideas I may have that would fit into the forecast office. My goal is to win the trust of the forecasters such that we have honest dialogue. These first 3 weeks have been spent visiting many important officials, the media, many advisors to the president, a number of ministers, budget people. So the goal there is just to be visible as a KMA vice administrator and to try to convey what the KMA does, what it needs, where it's going, how we can help. So from that, at meetings, I also have many meetings inside the KMA. The director generals have given me some very thorough briefings of needs, of accomplishments, of goals that they have, and that has been very valuable.
단장님께서 부임하신 지 얼마 안 되셔가지고 매우 바쁘신 걸로 알고 있는데요. 저희 그 기상청에서 느끼신 그 미국 기상청과의 차이가 어떤 게 있을까요?
There are, but I'd first like to tell you the similarities because they're very easy to spot. There are hardworking professionals in both the U.S. Weather Service and the KMA. So there's no lack of intellectual talent in the KMA. Your forecasters are just as bright as the U.S. weather forecasters are. Your forecasters are loyal and dedicated to serving the public, as are the Americans. Now, with that said, I do see some differences. It's my opinion that the KMA is not as efficient in their operation as is the U.S. Weather Service. I think there are several reasons for that. I think part of it is maybe the training has not been as thorough as it could be or will be. Maybe the visualization technology is in need of improvements. There are several reasons why there are differences, but I see an inefficiency in operations here. There are many opportunities to advance the KMA. All of them require some comprehensive, integrated training. If we cannot design that training and free the staff up for the training, we delay improvements. And delaying improvements, in the end, costs more over the long run, costs more money. The second point I would make, the inefficiencies that I see here, I think I would classify them as fitting the word stovepipe. A stovepipe is simply an exhaust fan in a house that takes smoke out of a fireplace or out of a stove into the atmosphere. So things go on inside the house, food is produced, discussions, and then fumes go into the air. If this office works hard and produces results, but we never talk to that office, we're guilty of stovepiping. And stovepiping means we're inefficient. The American Weather Service is guilty of stovepiping as well. It's a problem with large federal agencies. So the task is to get everybody to communicate horizontally.
단장님께서는 우리나라 기상청의 수준은 세계 최고 수준, 구체적으로 세계 6위권에 올리신다고 하셨는데 어떠한 구체적인 계획을 갖고 계십니까?
The answer is yes, and here's why. All weather services across the world are facing the issue of how do we best use our human talent. The numerical weather prediction models have vastly improved in my lifetime, and now can outperform a human forecaster 3 days and forward into the future. So a third or fourth or fifth day into the future, over the long haul, the computer models will do a better job than a human. That doesn't mean the human is not needed. The human is needed where the computer's models are not good, and that's on the nowcasting 0 to 10 hours forecast. And so that's the paradigm shift that will occur. So there has to be training to know how to deal with high impact weather. There has to be an agreement of the new policies. And so I envision simulations of what it would be like to deal with a nowcasting environment that's highly stressful to the staff.
그러니까 단장님께서 말씀하신 그 트레이닝의 주된 것은 그러니까 초단기 예보, 나우캐스팅이라든지 오늘 내일 예보 이 정도의 능력을 키우시겠다는 걸로 이해가 됩니다.
Well, I think that's the best early focus. Some people would say it's best to go out to the orchard and gather the low-hanging fruit first because it's the easiest to gather. And sometimes people can be impatient when they invest. They want to see a return on the investment. And so I think it's important that we show some results that are positive early. And nowcasting promises to provide early results. But at the same time, several ministers and senior advisors to the president have said they want the KMA also to help with input to climate change, climate impacts, climate adaptation. And so there's clearly a long-term activity whose dividends may not be seen for a while.
단장님께서는 대기과학의 전문가이자 레이더 분야의 전문가로 알고 있습니다. 단장님께서는 특히 그 레이더와 관련된 시스템을 말씀하셨는데요. 구체적으로 어떻게 발전시킨다는 그런 계획을 갖고 계십니까?
There are already some plans on the drawing board of the KMA that I believe in, but I hope I can accelerate what I'm about to tell you, the ideas, the concepts. And that is the government of South Korea has invested in 26 different weather radars from one side of Korea to the other side. 3 different agencies operate those weather radars. In general, they don't necessarily operate the same. Some of the data quality is low. And so I think there needs to be a standardization there. And the concept would be called a Radar Operations Center, or KROC, for Korean Radar Operations Center. In that center would be standard practices for collecting data, standard practices for maintaining the radar data. If we can make the data of higher quality, if we can integrate all 26 weather radars, it will be an invaluable data source for the numerical weather prediction models. Right now, the modelers tell me that the noise in the velocity data from the Doppler weather radars is too high to put that data in a numerical weather prediction model. But if the data were clean, then the model has a better initialization and will do a better job at producing a weather forecast.
미국에서도 그렇게 말씀하셨던 초단기 예보, 나우캐스팅 예보 시에 레이더가 절대적인 비중을 차지하고 있습니까?
The radar is essential, critical. Can't do it without it. The radars in the U.S., I think the weather radars in South Korea will play exactly the same role. They will be the primary tool, not the only tool, but the primary tool around which the human mind will look at developments and decide whether weather warnings are essential or not, who gets warned, who is not warned, such that the overall credibility of the warning program goes up. If the credibility of the warning program is good, then the forecast program can occasionally make a missed forecast, and the criticism normally is not as high than if the warning program is weak. So I think if we make a strong warning program built around radar data that is trustworthy, then the whole credibility of the KMA increases dramatically.
우리나라 반도국이기 때문에 서해상에서 들어오는 비구름을 정확하게 예측하지 못하고 있습니다. 그래서 많은 레이더를 설치했는데도 정확하게 예측을 못하고 있습니다. 미국의 오데오에도 그렇게 넓은 수면이 있는데요, 호수가 있는데요. 그쪽의 예보를 검토해 볼 적에, 생각해 볼 적에 우리 현재 우리나라 예보를 잘 레이더로서 잘 예보에 적용할 수 있겠습니까?
Well, I'm absolutely convinced that you can apply the radars towards the forecasting problem. But at the same time, I also recognize that your terrain is extremely complex. You have an ocean to your west, to your south, and to your east. And that makes life very complex as a meteorologist. The modeling of that interaction between the atmosphere and the ocean surface, or the atmosphere and the land surface, is difficult. It is not well understood by meteorologists worldwide, but we're getting better at it. The new data that was just announced with the marine buoys going around the peninsula of South Korea all of that should make for a more aware forecast staff, situationally aware. Therefore, I think even though the complexity is high, I think that in 3 years you will see some differences in the quality of the forecast. I think they will go up, but they will never be perfect.
예보관의 역량, 트레이닝을 계속 말씀하셨습니다. 그런데 저희 기상청에서도 어떤 뭐 지식관리 시스템이라든지 KMA 지식관리 시스템이라든지 아니면은 예보관 트레이닝을 통해 가지고 경험이라든지 노하우를 공유하는 그런 시간이 많이 있는데요. 미국에도 그런 어떤 트레이닝 프로그램을 좀 구체적으로 좀 말씀해 주실 수 있습니까?
Call simulation training. It is to begin a training session at, say, the current time and allow the clock to move at its normal time and have the data from a previous event be played back and ask the forecasters who are either young or old but are there for the training, okay, you must now make the decisions you would make if this were a real event. And the trainer will do what he can to confuse the trainee just to try to make the trainee more battle tested, if you will. And so I think simulation training, trying to resemble the real world and all the pressures that go with that, are the kind of training that's needed here. I'm not saying that your training here is bad. I'm just saying it needs to come up a notch to the next level. There's two reasons for that. One of the reasons is whoever the trainer is, that person has interacted with the developers of models, for example, or the developers of radar. And so there's horizontal dialogue between the developers and the trainers, such that if there is not a perfect fit, the differences are ironed out then. Then, when the development is complete, the training is compatible with the new tool, and they're both delivered to the forecasters at the same time. That's the example that we're following in the U.S. I think it's a good example. Conceptually, I don't find any fault with it. How we implement it in the KMA could be a little different than the U.S., but I think conceptually it will be the same approach.
아시오 시청자들에게 한 말씀 좀 각오라든지 좀 말씀해 주시면 고맙겠습니다.
I would say that the whole reason the KMA exists is to serve the citizens of South Korea. And if we don't meet their needs, then we deserve the criticism. So my responsibility will be to try to change the things that need changing such that the final delivery of products and services is as good as it is anywhere in the world. And I think we all work for the forecast staff that are in the forecast offices. We must make their life more efficient. We must make their ability to make decisions smoother. We must give them better tools. We must give them the right training. Otherwise, when they're under pressure, it's very difficult to make the best decisions. My legacy, if I have one here, will be, I hope that their job is more efficient in 3 years than it is today.